Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is what's your why? When we have a sense of purpose, a sense of mission, life is a very different experience. When we have a why to help us get out of bed each day and face the challenges of life and find a sense of meaning and resilience and purpose, it's life altering, really. So I remember, well, we'll talk about all of this in a couple minutes, but first let's take a little time here to just get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop, and allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning. Good morning, Rosalind. So good to have you joining us this morning, and wonderful to have everyone else joining us as well. What's your why? What gets you out of bed in the morning? What carries you through the challenges of life from one day to the next? I remember for such a long period in my life, I felt rudderless. I felt like I didn't have a purpose. I prayed for my purpose to be revealed as if it were to come from outside of me. And I know that that experience is what happens for some people, where they're kind of granted a mission and purpose from an external knowing, perhaps from maybe a voice or some kind of guidance that says, this is it, this is what's there for you. Others of us need to discover what our mission and our purpose is. And when we do, life changes. When we don't have a mission or purpose, I know for me, I felt rudderless and very depressed, actually, in facing life. I didn't have a whole lot of resilience. I felt like I was just really plodding through one moment to the next, and kind of felt helpless and hopeless for a long, long time. And what I discovered is that purpose is something that we discover within ourselves, but also that we create. So it was in an active seeking that I started discovering the purpose that was mine. And there are ways that we can be actively and consciously engaged in this discovery. So if you're interested, I wrote a little ebook called Your Inner Success Blueprint, 5 keys to discovering what you were born to do. And I'm just going to put a link to it in the chat here where you can sign up for my email list, and that will give you the download for the blueprint. And I'm just going to put that in the chat for you all. But one of the we have hints and clues and information available to us when we look at our lives that will expose that purpose to us. So one of the things that we can do to be discovering what we were meant to do, what we're here for, one of the things that we can do is look at the things that we were passionate about when we were children. Like what did you do that you enjoyed as a kid? I played school. I've always been a nerd, self-confessed, but I would play school. And I also would do show and tell. And this was a way for me to engage with other people and to share information together and to be engaged in learning. I've always been passionate about learning. So we want to look at what are the trends of your life. So Rosalind says, building forts with many rooms. Oh, I love it, Rosalind. I used to build forts too, but building forts with many rooms. So that's an interesting thing. And it could be also a really wonderful metaphor. The metaphor for having many interests, where each room serves its own purpose. And Hope, thank you for your comment. I see that it's afternoon where you are. I don't know if you all heard the sirens just now. Check out the blueprint. Thank you for your comment. And if you have any trouble receiving it, just direct message me, okay? And that's for everybody. If for whatever reason it doesn't come through for you, just let me know. So building forts with many rooms. So maybe there's an interest in building, certainly creating something, and the many rooms, I would imagine that those rooms would each have different purposes. So it may be that there are many interests. I know I have many interests, but I also have always been interested in crafty things, in art, in making things. And built forts, but not with many rooms. The forts were mostly with pillows. And it's interesting because I do have an interest in tiny homes and van life, so there's these little spaces, but I don't know what it was for you, Rosalind, but that's very cool. Anyway, that discovery or that inquiry into the things that lit you up as a kid, that offers a lot of clues, because those interests existed most likely before you were told that they shouldn't, or that you should do something else instead. So another thing that you can look at is what in your current life, what lights you up now? has you feel energized. So you can be tracking things that you do during the day, for example, and notice when time kind of disappears. Those instances when you're engaged with something to that level of involvement, that time disappears, that's also giving you some information about what your passion is, or what an interest is, what is something that is enlivening to you. And another thing to look at is what makes you different. What makes you different from other people and has always made you stand out from other people? So it's often something that we get criticized for that ends up being one of our greatest gifts. So for years and years, within minutes of meeting me, people would tell me either I was crazy or I was too intense. And what was going on is I always looked under the surface and always looked for the meaning behind things. And now I'm a coach, a transformational coach, and that's what I do for a living. I always was interested in the meaning behind, or the essence of reality and consciousness. And that's what I play in now. So, it's finding that alignment, finding that thing that's the passion. So Rosalind says, animals make me happy. A doggy in the car window, alpacas at the nearby vineyard hotel, my pals at home. So if animals make you happy, like really lift you up, Rosalind, I know you have an interest in healing. Maybe there's something that combines healing with animals. There are animal sanctuaries. There are people who communicate with animals, who do distance, remote and localized healing with animals. There are all kinds of things that you can do that may relate to animals, maybe even having therapy animals can be a really wonderful thing to do with animals as well. You can get creative with it. Animals are such wonderful people. In my opinion, animals are the best people on the planet. They make me happy too. And they are not my deepest passion. At one point, my father was a veterinarian. At one point, I thought I wanted to be a veterinarian because I loved animals so much. The thing about being a veterinarian is there's a lot of pain and suffering that we witness with animals in that kind of arena. So maybe if animals are a passion, there are animal organizations to be able to work with. There are ways to work with shelters for animals. There are ways to foster animals. There are all different kinds of things that we can do to advocate for animals and to just be engaged with animals. So that's a great thing for you to look into. What lights you up? What gives you energy? So I know for me, I have to be doing something creative. I have always gotten energy from doing creative things. So I make things. I am creative in thinking and with my clients. So we get to think outside the box. There's all different patterns and characteristics and values that we have, that when we start actually doing that kind of exploration, we can discover that all the clues were there right in front of us all the time. So another way that we can start to find our passion and our purpose is to start looking at our values and what we most revere. And in the blueprint, there's a whole list of over 100 values that you can then go in and create a hierarchy of values that can guide you into employment positions, into hobby kind of things, but also into making decisions. So, for instance, if consciousness and creativity were really important to you, you wouldn't want to be in a job that didn't challenge you and your awareness, and that was just routine, over and over and over, repetitive kind of work. You would probably go crazy in that kind of environment because you didn't have the creative outlet, potentially. So understanding your values really can help you make determinations about whether what's happening in a given relationship, what's happening in a given work opportunity, what's happening in lifestyle, etc. So we have values, we just don't often bring them to our conscious awareness. And I think that's the case with all of these different aspects that help us discover our purpose. And when we've gone through these other exercises, to be looking at what made us different, what did we do as a kid, what lights us up now and energizes us, what are our values. The last, and I think perhaps the most telling key, is to look at what breaks your heart. Because the thing that we have the most passion about, the deepest emotional response to, is something that we can devote ourselves to in a big way. So for myself, every time I would talk about what we were doing with the planet, I would well up with tears. I felt helpless and hopeless in the face of that, of the things we're doing in the world, the choices we're making. And it broke my heart, literally broke my heart. And so out of that, what evolved for me was a choice to move into something that serves awareness so that we can shift our relationship with the planet and with each other. And so that's where the podcast Sustainability Now was born, and a vision for an eco park, and also the coaching, because consciousness is very much a part of how we interact with the planet and with each other. And so that last test of what breaks your heart is a really valuable and important litmus test to find a sense of purpose and mission that will carry you through the challenges that life serves up to us. So finding our soul song, finding the thing that makes our heart go pit-a-pat, when we find a mission and purpose and step into that, it truly will make your spine tingle. It truly will resonate with you with a shudder through your body of a knowing of, oh yeah, this is it. This is what matters. And it's scary to step into. If it isn't a little scary or uncomfortable, then the likelihood is that you're not quite on the perfect on the perfect path there. Because when we step into our purpose and our passion, it calls us to be more than we know ourselves to be. It's a call from our higher self, our greater expression, that is inviting us into our fuller manifestation and our fuller capacities. It's a part of ourselves calling us into the unknown. We talk here a lot about the unknown, but calling us into the unknown. But it's, in its way, it's an unknown that is our destiny, where we know that we're meant to step into it, and it means stepping beyond the limitations that we impose upon ourselves, because we tend to keep ourselves small. We tend to be comfortable, and stepping beyond that, pushing the edges, exploring the edges, rather than pushing the edges, is where vitality resides. And there's an enlivenment and an excitement that is available to us when we explore those edges. And as we explore those edges, we tend to expand into them, where we take this leap of faith into our calling. And in a way, what happens is we surrender to it, and then life just complies. Life supports us in rather miraculous, magical ways. And in the pursuit of our purpose, we can find tremendous frustration because we're pursuing something that we think should be a certain way, right? We can have a sense of mission and purpose, but then we get our own ideas about what that should look like. And we tend then to actually really try to push the river. And that can be an exercise in profound frustration. I've experienced that also in my life, and I imagine you may have as well, where things just don't seem to be happening fast enough. We know what we're supposed to be doing, we know where we're supposed to be, or we think we do, but it's not happening fast enough. It's not happening the way that we imagine it should be happening. And so when we impose those expectations, we tend to set ourselves up for tremendous disillusionment and frustration. I had a client who was adamant that they knew what they should be doing, and it just wasn't happening. And what the story was is that they were trying to bypass the growth and the lessons that they needed to have before they could get to that place. So things don't necessarily happen on our timeline. as great the conviction we may have about how things should be and how they should unfold and in what time and context, it doesn't necessarily happen that way. And coming back to the sense of mission and purpose, it's also really useful to recognize that that mission and purpose can express itself in a multitude of ways. And what we get to do is to start living into the ownership, the embodiment of that purpose. And as we elevate our own frequency, our own energetic patterns to be in alignment with that purpose, then things, the universe supports us in the manifestation of that intention and that mission. So there's a surrender to it, actually, a willingness to be in service to it, rather than trying to control it and create it in a way that looks the way we think it should in the time we think it should. So our impatience actually becomes an impediment to the fulfillment of our destiny. And what we're looking for is alignment in this moment, and this moment, and this moment, as the moments unfold, that we can see purpose and mission not as an outcome, but as a process, that we engage in our exploration and discovery as part of a process. And this is so for all of life, as we allow life to unfold, to be in process rather than to be a fixed identity trying to act with force upon life. We can be in process and in collaboration with life. And that's why this mission and purpose thing is really a process of discovery more than it is a declaration. There may be a declaration of ownership and willingness to engage in that process, but ultimately it is process. So with that, that's it for this morning. Discover your why. Be in the inquiry about it. And until that's it for this morning. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. I go live each weekday morning here on Enlightened World Network. And I invite you to please like, follow, and share Enlightened World Network, as well as my YouTube channel. The links are in the chat, in the description. And as always, it's a privilege and a pleasure to be with you. And until next time, so much love.